Traffic, and the car didn't come. So I should have known. There's King David writes in Tehillim about his difficulties. He laments that the Arabs, or whatever they are, where they are very troublesome people. He says, I try to talk with them peace. Too long I've lived with the people of Kedar, he says. I talk peace and they talk war. That's what he says. Here, I'll read you the Pittel 120. Pittel 120, I happen to say it very often. Here. Chapter 1. In Tehillim. Chapter 120 in Tehillim, verse 7. I am for peace, he says. Ani shalom. V'kiyah daber, when I speak with them, hema lemilchama. They only want war. And he laments and he says, too long I have lived with the people here. Woe is me, he says, verse 5. Kigarti meshech, I've spent too long with Meshech, shachanti im ole Kedar. I've been hanging out with the tents, the people who live in tents of Kedar. Kedar is a descendant of Yishmael. So they said, I ordered a cab this morning, and they said to me, we'll be there in 2 minutes. Your driver's name is Kedar. I should have been in this trouble. Then it said, be there in 4 minutes. Then he said, we'll be there in 6 minutes. Then they said, it'll be in 2 minutes. Over half an hour. Okay, let's read chapter 20 in Tehillim. Pray for the peace of our people. The Rebbe said, Mashiach is here, open your eyes. We'll look at what's going on in the world. We can see what's happening. We start off with a chapter 20 of Tehillim to pray for the peace of our people. Yancha Adonai b'imtzari yisagev Hashem Elohei Yankev. Yishach ezacha mekaydesh. You can read it in English if you don't speak, you can't read the Hebrew. Yishach ezacha mekaydesh. Umitzion isadeka. Yizker kol min chosecha. We ask Hashem to remember all the offerings that we brought to the temple for His sake. Oylasaha Yudash Nasela. Iten Nahacha Vavecha. He should grant all your heart's requests, V'hol Atzasacha Yamale, and you should be able to fulfill all your good resolutions. We will rejoice in your redemption. Uvashem Eloheinu Nazkir, and we will mention in praise the name of God. Yamale Adonai Kol Mishalesecha, you should fulfill all your heart's requests. Ata Adon Yodaiti. Now I know, Ki Hashia Adonai Mashiach, Hashem saves His anointed one. Yanehu Mishmei Kodshe. He answers him from His holy heavens. B'gevures, with might, Yesha salvation, Yaminei, from His right hand. Elev Rechav Elev Asusim, they come with chariots and vehicles of war. V'anachnu, and cavalry, V'susim, cavalry, Asus is the horse. The famous story about the man who had a horse named Sus. V'anachnu b'shem Adonai Eloheinu nazkir. We come with the name of God on our lips. Him akaru v'nafalu, they stumbled, they fell. V'anachnu kamnu, we stood up and we are stalwart, standing strong in the faith of Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. Adonai Hishia Melech Yaneinu V'im Karenu. Hashem is our King. He should answer us on the day we call. We're in chapter 6 of Tanya. Any questions lurking in the back of your mind? Good morning, Isa. Which page were we up to on Friday? Tzimtzumim. We're talking about tzimtzumim. On page 107, he translates tzimtzum as contractions. How do you get from infinite light, infinite power, infinite source to to us? We are very limited. The answer is tzimtzum. What is tzimtzum? It's like a quantum descent, contraction, minimization. There are two levels of tzimtzum. There's cause to effect, where you feel where you're coming from. Like, my father was a painter, and I'm a painter. My mother was a musician, and I'm musically inclined. I'm not my mother, I'm not my father. My father was in business, I'm also in business. But I have I get something from them. I feel I'm very different. His approach is very different from mine. Her art is very different from mine. But you feel that there's a relationship between you and where you're coming from. Runs in the family, so to speak. But there's another kind of tzimtzum where the effect comes from seemingly nowhere, like a quantum leap. It's not that like in a chain link, the bottom of one link becomes connected with the top of the next link below. So there's a connection. You understand? Follow? But with a tzimtzum, there's no connection. This world, we don't see where the world comes from. There's a big leap. From level to level, in spiritual terms, we see the connection. You with me, Katerina? Yeah. From level to level, you see the connection. Tzimtzum, you don't see the connection. We don't see where the world comes from. We can see the world must come from somewhere. I mean, every one of you is wearing some kind of garment that has a label in it, tells you who made it. You have a whole world, there's no labels. You have to use your insight. But I look at the suit, I see you had a good seamstress to make such a lovely wardrobe. So we look at the world, we can understand that it must have a creator. Like it says in the Medrash, Avraham Avinu saw the moon going across the sky, and then he saw the moon went down, the sun came up, and the sun moved across the sky. He says, who's moving these things? If they're moving, someone must be moving them. Did anybody see the moon this morning? It's like 7 o'clock. At about 7 o'clock, it was like there. At 6 o'clock, it was like there, like 10:30. 7 o'clock was like at 11 o'clock, like there. Maybe from your point of view, like there. The moon was there, moving like this across the sky. It's awesome. We don't pay attention to it. It's awesome, awesome. Look up at the moon. Who put it there? It says the first pasuk in last week's parsha. The Jewish people, why does Hashem give us the names of all the Jewish people? 70 people went down to Egypt. He tells us all their names. Why? We know them already. We learned them a couple of weeks ago. He says, because he loves them. Just like the prophet Isaiah compares the Jewish people to stars. Who puts the stars in the sky? It says Hashem puts them out one by one by one. Millions of stars. Hashem has patience for every single one. A person should never feel alone. Hashem brings you into the world by number. That's what the prophet says. He brings the stars out by number, and he brings them in the morning. When it gets light out, where do the stars go? You want to say they just disappear. We can't see them because we have the light. of the sun. No, it says Hashem brings them in by name, like a shepherd calling in his flock. Every sheep has a name. Every star has a name. And you also have a name. You come like a number. They give you a bracelet with a number for your mother. Give your mother a bracelet with a number. But when you leave, hopefully you have a good name. And every one of you is like you are like stars in the night. When a traveler is lost, he can find his way because of the stars in the sky. And every Jewish person has enough light for a person who's lost to find his way to the truth. All right. And he says here, the bottom of page 107, that's where we're up to. Through this process of tzimtzum, the light becomes less and less and less and less and less and less until it becomes so contracted, so minimized that it can be clothed in physical things, like a person who's taken hostage. So the light and vitality within us is like taken hostage. When you do a mitzvah and you say a blessing, you liberate the hostage. You're liberating that life force from its physical prison. Hanifrad. And Hashem keeps that vessel in which you have the life, like this glass of milk, I hope. Yeah. Hashem keeps it alive with this minimized life force that's in it that prevents it. Shalei yachs, a very important phrase here, page 108, second paragraph. Shalei yachzor li yesayin va'efes kabetachila, so that the life in this, thank you, the life in this cup and the life in the milk that's in this cup will not go back. What prevents it from disappearing, going back to where it was before it was created? So the answer is that the life force that creates this glass of milk, or this computer, or this glass of water, or this pen with which you're writing, what makes that pen come and be here in the world is the creative power of God keeps making it all the time, every single second. I read an amazing thing just a few days ago where somebody came to the Rebbe and said that he broke down and started to cry and said, Rebbe, there's no hope for me. I've done so many terrible things in my life. I don't know what to do. My only hope was to come to you. They told me you're the only one who could give me an answer to save me. And the Rebbe said, the world in which you did all these terrible things no longer exists. Doesn't exist. Hashem creates the world brand new every single second. David HaMelech says along the same lines, believe in Hashem and do good. You're a new person in a new world. Okay? Because otherwise, the life force would return to its original state of non-existence as it was before it was created. You know what it's like? In the gaming places, they have a game called bingo. What do they have? They have ping pong balls, and the ping pong balls have numbers and letters on them. And they have anybody ever play bingo? So you've all seen it. They have the hot air, air blowing, the ping pong balls keeping them up in the air, and every now and then one falls down, and they call out the number, whatever is written on it. and you have a piece of paper, and if you get all the numbers, then you win. Bingo, so you won. That air shooting out and keeping the ping pong balls up in the air, that's how the world is created. As long as the air is blowing, the ping pong balls are up in the air. And the Hashem is creating the world out of nothing, like the blowing air, keeping the ping pong balls up there. And if it should stop for a second, so there's a story, a Misnagid was once arguing with a Chassid. That he thinks that his God is so great, the concept of God is so great, it doesn't make sense to him. So the Chassid asks us, listen, if Hashem wanted to get rid of something in the world, how would he do it? He said, he'd send a big fire and burn it up. But then there'd be ashes. How would he get rid of the ashes? Or he'd send a big wind and blow the ashes all over the place, but then they'd still be there. How would he get rid of them? Don't you understand, said the Chassid. If Hashem wants to get rid of something, he just ceases to create it, and it goes out of existence. Just like that. He doesn't need to bring other forces to do it. Let's continue. Page 108 in the middle. And this is why Nikra Olam Hazeh Umalea Olam HaKlippas. That's why this world is called a world of klippas and of life that comes from the other side, not holy life. Lachin Kol Maisa Olam Hazeh, and therefore everything in this world, if it's not for a holy purpose, is from the other side. There's no godliness there. Therefore, everything in our physical lives is pretty tough statements here. Everything in our physical lives is kasha, hard, kashim, v'roim. Kashim is hard and evil. Rashoim goyvrim boy, and wicked people seem to be in charge of everything. Kamesha Koso Eitz Chaim, all this is written in the book called Eitz Chaim, the tree, which means the tree of life. Who wrote the book called the Tree of Life? Give you a hint. His name is Chaim Vital. He was the student, the top follower, disciple of Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, called the Ari Zal. The Ari is an Ari is a lion. It stands for Rabbi Yitzchak. Ari Zal means Zechrone Livrocha. His memory should be a blessing. So he owned the Rabbi Yitzchak Chaim Vital was the only one allowed to write down his teachings. So he writes there in a book that he called with his name Eitz Chaim. Eitz Chaim. Sharmem Beis Seif Perik Dalet. It gives you a footnote, a reference. I'm going to skip this note at this point. We'll come back to it. And now he introduces the idea of the klippas. Klippas, we said last day, are like external level of life. That just like holiness is sourced in 10 holy spheres, which emanate from God, 7 intellectual levels, and 3 intellectual levels and 7 emotional levels. We have the mirror image on the other side in klippas, which also subdivide into 2 being intellect and emotions. So also in klippas, page 110, Shaklippas hein nechlokes l'shtei madregas. They also divide into 2 levels, zu lamata mizu, one lower than the other. Hamadrega hatachtoina, the lower level of these 2 levels is called 3 impure klippas. three impure levels. They are the source of everything that is impure and evil in the world. In other words, all evil deeds, when a person does something really bad in the world, he violates the laws of mankind and the laws of ethical laws, justice, morality. He is drawing life at that moment from these impure klippas. Things in the world, objects that the Torah tells us to stay away from them, they are also deriving their life from these three impure klippas. And they, in turn, are deriving their life from the three opposite image of the three letters of the name of God. Just like the name of God starts with a Yud, which is the top level, and then you have three lower levels of life, the Hey, Vav, Hey. So this is reflected in klippas, that you have a higher level of klippa, which corresponds to the Yud, the difference being that the Yud of klippas can be elevated. It stands for a level of creation that has goodness in it that can be liberated. And that's the source of everything that you're allowed to do. It's not holy, but you're allowed to do it, like exercise, or like doing business honestly, going shopping, going to the bank, cleaning the house, sewing, painting. That's called klippas noga. The word noga means, noga was a term from the ancients signifying the largest of all the planets in the solar system. And the ancients used to attribute the king of the gods with that name as well. You know, like Jupiter. So that's noga, klippas noga. Why is it called noga? And the word noga means to shine, because you can use these objects like milk. Is there holiness in the milk? No, milk is not holy. But if I say a bracha on it, then the life that's in it, which is from klippas noga, from the neutral area between, it's not good, it's not bad, it's neutral. By saying a blessing, it becomes part of something that's holy, which is the energy to learn a class. So the lower level of the four klippas is called three impure klippas, and they are the source of everything that's negative and bad. Like, for instance, some impure animals. What are impure animals? Ants, snakes, rats, mice, fish that don't have fins and scales, animals that are not kosher animals. They all derive their life from these three levels of klippa. Some more, dangerous. Birds of prey, and so on. They derive their life from the impure klippas, three impure klippas. Kosher things derive their life from the higher level of klippas called klippas noga. An unusual thing is that sometimes you can take two kosher things, put them together, they become forbidden. Somehow, there's a mystery. The Torah doesn't explain it, just tells us what it is. Like a cheeseburger. Cheese is kosher, and meat is kosher if it's prepared properly. But if you put them together, it becomes a new substance that derives its life from the impure klippas. So therefore, the Torah tells us you cannot elevate it. The impure klippas are very, very powerful. Like in Hebrew, they call it a davar acher. What's a davar acher in Hebrew? goes oink oink. Hmm? And it sleeps with its feet out like this to show you that it has the kosher sign. Kosher sign is 2 split toenails. So therefore, it's a big insult to call somebody by that name because it's a symbol of deceitfulness and hypocrisy. Look at me, how kosher I am, and the insides are not kosher. Whereas all the other non-kosher animals that have ones that all the kosher animals have this sign on them, that they have two split toenails. The Hasidus explains that explains for somebody who serves God with both sides of his character, that which comes easily to him and that which is hard for him, like Abraham. Abraham loved to do kindness for people. He used to take them in and take care of them and feed them, and he would teach them to pray to God. He would teach them how to say blessings. And he made the name of God familiar to everybody in the world by doing that. But it was very hard for Avram to behave in a strict way. But he did it, because even though it wasn't his nature to do so, when he had to do so, he went to war. He fought. He killed people in order to rescue his nephew, Lot. And he would use strictness and severity to teach people. If they didn't want to say a blessing, he would say, okay, so pay me a bill. Pay your bill. They'd say, so much? He'd say, do you know any other restaurants around here? He was in the desert. So he served God with both sides of his character. That's what this stands for. But that's not why we eat dokoi. That's just a sign for us. If you're stranded on a desert island and you find some animal, how do you know if you can eat it or not? Well, if it has 2 toenails, you can eat it, unless it says oink oink. That's the only animal in the world that has 2 toenails. It's not kosher. And it says on page 111 that concerning the lower level of klippas, the prophet Ezekiel, Yechezkel, had a vision of the divine chariot. What is a chariot? This is all metaphors for the way godly life comes into the world. And he describes in this chariot the forces that conceal godliness, and they're described as a storm wind and the great cloud and the flaring fire, representing the 3 levels of the impure klippas. And from them flow and are derived the souls of all the nations of the world, and the life that gives them their existence come from these levels. Also from these klippas are the souls of all the animals that are unclean animals, like we just mentioned some of them, catfish, sharks, sailfish, clams, shrimp. Then where does their life come from? Their life, we can't eat these things. They're forbidden. Because when I say a blessing on the milk, that elevates the life force that's in the milk, because it's from Klippas Noga. But if I take oysters or clams or lobsters, go to Lobster Hut, yeah. I once had a parent who was so angry, his son became kosher. In the Chabad house, started keeping kosher. His father was furious. He called up, he was yelling. I said, what are you so upset about? He says, I want to go to eat with my son. I said, so what's stopping you? He says, he won't go to the Lobster House. I said, you could go to a different kind of restaurant. No, I want lobsters. Well, the Torah tells us, if you say a blessing on the lobster, you can't elevate it. He's going to tell us in the next chapter, if a person has a delicious meal at a non-kosher restaurant, and then he goes to the rabbi to learn Tanya, the energy he's going to put into learning cannot be elevated, but he will be denigrated, he will be drawn down, and his Torah will not rise, and his character will not be purified. So that even if he does a mitzvah, the life force that he gets from the oysters or the clams or the lobsters or the cheeseburgers will not be able to participate in the words of Torah that he is saying. And the energy that he puts into saying these words when he's breathing and when he's learning with all his energy, the energy from the non-kosher food will not be included. And you say, why? Well, how do we know? You only know because you came to Machon Liyadus. Because the Tanya tells us this. This is received from the Alter Rebbe, from the great holy teachers of the past, which go all the way back, not just to the Arizal, but to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, from the Zohar, from 2,000 years ago, and he got it from the great mystical teachers of his past. Who were these great mystical teachers? Adam. And Avram wrote a book called Sefer HaYetzirah, the book of formation. And this knowledge was passed down from generation to generation, and people didn't need it. They believed in God. They grew up with the belief in God. In our generation, we have come to a time where if we didn't have these teachers, we'd be lost. Things that for my wife's parents and grandparents were normal as part of their life, we have to learn about them. My wife's grandmother never said a sentence in her life without the name of God. They're holy people. They live with God, but we are not. So therefore, this was a great gift to mankind that the Baal Shem Tov wrote. And it says in the Tanya, well, we might even come across it, but it says here in the Tanya that one of the great statements that the Arizal made, this is 500 years ago, 500 years. What was America? What was this building here? What was this neighborhood here 500 years ago? Imagine. It was a forest. It was uncivilized. It's before the American Revolution, 200 years before the American Revolution even. It's Indians living in the forest. At that time, 500 years ago in Sfas, you had a great Mekubal, a mystic called the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria. And one of the things that he taught was, we have come to a new era in the history of the world when it has now become, until now, we were not allowed to teach these things in public. And we've come to a new era in which for the world to survive and people to survive and the belief in God to survive, it's a mitzvah to reveal this mystical knowledge, which is what we have here in the Tanya. That's for us a great privilege and a great benefit, which our grandparents didn't need. Therefore, it wasn't revealed. L'chaim. Aliza.
Yes.
My mother-in-law, her name was Isa. When she went to Israel, they called her Aliza. Oi, 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 oi. Okay, these plants' trousers are going to have to go to the cleaners. Rabbi Pape, you got carried away. It happens, at the end of a good class, I get very excited. All right. You're gonna go back to the Rabbi Majeski is gonna say, what did you do in class today? And you'll say, well, Rabbi Pape came late and then he spoke. Ah. All right. Thank you. Thank you for coming. What's that mean?
Chapter 6.
What?
You finished chapter 6, everyone. Yeah. Oh, I want to say super. Good morning. Yeah. That